Welcome to The Explainer. We're all about breaking down the world's biggest ideas. And today, man, we are cracking open a big one. We're diving into the core secret of one of the most powerful self-help books ever written, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
All right, so let's just jump right in. Hill kicks off his book with this incredible story that perfectly answers that question. It really gets to the core of why some people strike it rich, and, well, why so many others just don't.
So picture it. It's the gold rush. The excitement is everywhere. And you've got this guy R.U. Darby and his uncle. They get totally swept up in the frenzy, right? They head out to Colorado dreaming of gold. And after all this incredibly hard work, they actually do it. They hit the jackpot. They find this massive vein of gold ore, and the very first shipment proves it. They are sitting on what looks like one of the richest mines in the entire state.
So you can imagine their hopes are through the roof, the drills are churning, and then, poof, it's gone. The vein of gold just disappears. It's like they found the end of the rainbow, but the pot of gold vanished right before their eyes. They keep drilling, desperate, but nothing. It's just gone.
And at that point, they do what, let's be honest, a lot of us would probably do. They just quit. They sell all their machinery to a local junk man for practically nothing and just go home. Totally defeated. But here's where the story gets really, really interesting. It's all about what this so-called junk man did next. See, this wasn't your average junk man. He was clever. Instead of just scrapping the equipment, he thought, let me get a second opinion. He brings in a mining engineer, and this engineer takes one look and figures it out pretty fast. The Darbys, he realized, had no idea about fault lines, these geological shifts that can just move a vein of ore. So the engineer does some calculations and realizes the gold was still there. And get this, it was just 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped drilling. 3 feet. That junk man, well, he went on to pull millions of dollars from that mine, all because he didn't give up and he got some expert advice. And that story, right there, is the perfect setup for the entire philosophy of this book. What Napoleon Hill is saying is that the #1 reason people fail is because they quit, plain and simple. They run into a problem and mistake a temporary defeat for a permanent failure. And that's the whole point, isn't it? The real gold mine isn't out there in some mountain in Colorado. It's right here, between your ears. Hill's big idea is that the greatest fortunes ever discovered come from our own brains, from our ideas, our plans, and our refusal to give up.
Okay, so this brings us to Hill's central concept. He calls it thought transmutation. Now that might sound a little out there, but stick with me. The idea is actually pretty straightforward. He believed that thoughts are actual things. They're a form of energy. And if you can take a powerful thought, like a burning desire for something, and you mix it with a solid plan and a whole lot of persistence, you can literally turn that thought into its physical reality. We're talking wealth, a business, you name it.
So the big question is, how do you actually do that? How do you take an idea floating around in your head and make it real? Well, Hill doesn't just leave you hanging. He gives you a very specific blueprint. Let's dig into it.
Now, Hill is super clear on this. Just wishing for money is going to get you exactly nowhere. What you need is a burning desire. And then he lays out these 6 steps to make it happen. First, you got to be specific. What's the exact amount of money? Not a lot, but a number. Second, what are you going to give in return? There's no free lunch. Third, set a hard deadline. Fourth, create a real concrete plan. Fifth, write it all down in a clear statement. And sixth, and this is key, read that statement out loud twice a day, every day. It's not magic, it's about rewiring your brain for success and giving yourself a roadmap.
Okay, but a great plan, a great blueprint, that's only part of the equation. You also need the fuel to actually get you there. And that fuel is the one thing our friends the Darbys were missing.
And this right here is the absolute key mental shift you have to make. On one hand, you've got temporary defeat. That's just an obstacle, right? It's a detour, something you learn from. But on the other hand, you have permanent failure. And that's not something that happens to you. It's a choice. It's a state of mind that you enter the moment you decide to quit.
Darby learned that lesson the hard way, but boy, did he learn it. He ended up becoming this incredibly successful insurance salesman. And why? Because he never again gave up after the first no. He realized that success, whether it's a sale or a vein of gold, is almost always waiting just past the point where most people throw in the towel.
Okay, so if the plan is so simple and we know persistence is the key, what's stopping us? Why is it so hard to just keep going? Well, Hill says it all comes down to one big, powerful enemy:
Fear. And he gets really specific. He breaks it down into these 6 basic fears that pretty much haunt all of us. You know, the fear of being poor, the fear of what other people will say, fear of getting sick, losing love, all of these. He argues that these fears are what paralyze us. They shut down our creativity, kill our motivation, and convince us to quit. Yep, just 3 feet from the gold.
But here's the good news. Here's the secret to beating them. Fear isn't some monster out there in the world. It's just a state of mind. It's internal. And because it's in your mind, it's the one thing you actually have complete and total control over.
And all of this, it all builds up to the book's final, most powerful idea. This is the big one. It's the concept that holds everything else together.
So Hill brings in this super famous line from the poem Invictus. But he doesn't just quote it. He says, you know, the poet did a great job, but he left out the most important part. He never told us why we are the masters of our fate.
And this, right here, is the secret. This is the whole shebang. The reason you are the master of your fate is because you have the power to control your own thoughts. It's that simple. Your mind is the one thing nobody can ever take from you, and it's the only tool you truly need to shape your own destiny. So that's really the question Napoleon Hill leaves you with. You have this incredible power, the power to direct your own thoughts. So what are you going to build with it? When you choose that burning desire, instead of just wishing, when you choose persistence over quitting and you choose faith over fear, you tap into the incredible power of your own mind. You become the captain of your soul. And that is the timeless, world-changing secret of Think and Grow Rich.